power. It intoxicates, it corrupts, it blinds. Yet it seduces millions every day, from kings and presidents to CEOs and influencers. Niccolò Machiavelli, writing over 500 years ago during the brutal political upheavals of Renaissance Italy, cut through the romantic illusions about power with ruthless clarity. He didn't offer flattering advice or lofty ideals. Instead, he handed us a cold mirror reflecting the raw, often ugly truths about how power works, and how it inevitably destroys those who misunderstand it. So why does Machiavelli still matter? Why do millions continue to study The Prince as if it were a survival manual for the modern world? Because despite centuries of progress, the game hasn't changed. The players wear different masks, but the stakes are the same. The hunger for control, the fear of betrayal, the desperate need to maintain dominance. This is not just history. This is the blueprint of every power struggle we see today, in politics, business, relationships, even within ourselves. Yet, there is a problem. Most people fail this test. They commit the same humiliating mistakes Machiavelli warned against. They trust too easily, ignore public opinion, underestimate enemies, cling to rigid strategies, neglect reputation, mismanage fear and love, and arrogantly dismiss the role of fortune. These errors don't just cost power. They strip away dignity, expose weakness, and invite ruin. What follows in this film is a journey through these 7 fatal mistakes, each one a lesson in what to avoid if you want to survive and thrive in the brutal arena of human nature. But this is more than just a guide to power. It's a psychological thriller starring the human mind's darkest vulnerabilities and its desperate grasp for control. Because in the end, power is a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and desires. And those who ignore Machiavelli's warnings risk shattering that mirror, falling into humiliation and oblivion. Mistake number 1, trusting too easily. The trap of naive loyalty. In a world ruled by power, trust is both a weapon and a weakness. Machiavelli's first warning cuts deep. Trust too easily and you set yourself up for betrayal. It sounds harsh, even cynical, but history is filled with leaders who fell because they misplaced their faith. They believed in loyalty, in honor, in the promises whispered behind closed doors. And yet, those promises became daggers in their backs. Why? Because human nature is complicated. Loyalties shift like sand. The only constant in power is self-interest. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He knew that to survive, a ruler, or anyone seeking influence, must balance openness with ruthless suspicion. The fatal mistake is blind loyalty, giving your trust without demand or verification. This is not just a political problem. It's psychological. It strikes at the core of our need for connection and belonging. We want to believe people have our backs. We want to feel safe within alliances. But that desire can become a trap. When you trust too easily, you lower your guard. You stop anticipating betrayal. You open yourself up to manipulation. The consequences are humiliating, and often deadly. Take history's infamous examples. Julius Caesar betrayed by Brutus. King Louis XVI, blindsided by his own court. Or more recently, leaders undone by trusted advisors leaking secrets or turning traitor. On a psychological level, this mistake taps into a universal conflict. The tension between our need to trust and the reality of human selfishness. Machiavelli's brutal advice is clear. Trust, yes, but with your eyes wide open. Always test loyalty. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. This approach isn't about paranoia or isolation. It's about survival. It's about mastering the social game with realism, not rose-colored illusions. In modern times, this lesson resonates in every boardroom, every relationship, every alliance. The ones who succeed are those who understand the limits of trust and guard their vulnerabilities. To ignore this warning is to invite humiliation, to be blindsided by betrayal, to lose not just power, but self-respect. Because when the mask of loyalty falls away, what remains is raw truth. Power without caution is power undone. Mistake number 2, Ignoring public opinion, the death of popular support. No matter how strong, how cunning, or how ruthless a leader is, Machiavelli warns that ignoring the will of the people is a mistake that guarantees downfall. At first glance, power seems to rest on force, fear, or manipulation. But beneath that surface lies a fragile truth. The support of the masses is the foundation of lasting power. Machiavelli was acutely aware that rulers who alienate the public eventually become isolated, vulnerable targets. Public opinion is not a vague or superficial force. It is a psychological storm. When a leader ignores it, they fail to grasp the collective mood, the unspoken frustrations, the simmering resentments. History is littered with examples. Kings and emperors who ruled by decree alone, blind to the anger of their people, ultimately faced rebellion, exile, or execution. Why does this happen? Because humans crave respect and recognition. They may obey out of fear, but hatred builds beneath the surface, and hatred is far more dangerous. Machiavelli famously advised rulers to be both feared and loved, but warned clearly against being hated. Hatred destroys the social fabric that holds power in place. The psychology of crowds is volatile. It can uplift a leader in one moment and tear them down the next. Ignoring public opinion is like walking blindfolded on a cliff's edge. One misstep, and everything collapses. In modern times, this lesson resonates beyond politics. CEOs lose their companies when they neglect employees and customers. Influencers fall from grace when they disregard their audience. Even personal relationships crumble when one ignores the feelings and needs of others. Machiavelli's warning is not a call for pandering or weakness. It is a call for awareness and respect. Understanding the pulse of the people, managing their perceptions, and avoiding actions that breed hatred are essential for survival. The humiliation of this mistake? Becoming a leader without followers, powerless, isolated, and exposed. It's the death of influence, the quiet unraveling of authority. In the brutal game of power, those who ignore public opinion do so at their own peril, and often at the cost of everything they've built. Mistake number 3, underestimating enemies. The blind spot of complacency, one of the deadliest errors a leader, or anyone seeking power, can make, is to underestimate their enemies. This is Machiavelli's third fatal mistake. Complacency born from arrogance or ignorance. Power often breeds a dangerous illusion of invincibility. Victories can inflate the ego, blinding a person to emerging threats lurking in the shadows. Machiavelli was brutally clear. Enemies are never truly defeated until they are fully understood and anticipated. To underestimate an opponent is to leave the door wide open for betrayal, attack, or ruin. History offers countless examples of rulers toppled not by overwhelming force, but by overlooked foes. Consider the fall of Napoleon, brought down in part by those he dismissed as minor adversaries, or the collapse of the Soviet Union, which caught many world powers off guard. The psychology behind this mistake is deeply human. Confidence can quickly spiral into arrogance. Arrogance feeds complacency, and complacency is the blind spot where disaster breeds. Underestimating enemies also means ignoring the complexity of human motives. People's intentions are rarely simple or predictable. Those who fail to recognize the nuanced strategies of opponents expose themselves to surprise attacks. Machiavelli's advice is clear and chilling. Always assume your enemies are clever, patient, and relentless. This mindset is not paranoia, it's vigilance. In today's interconnected world, this lesson extends far beyond the battlefield or throne room. Corporate sabotage, political intrigue, social media smear campaigns all demonstrate how underestimating opponents can lead to rapid downfall. In personal life, too, ignoring signs of betrayal or rivalry can be catastrophic. The humiliation tied to this mistake is profound. To be blindsided by someone you thought harmless. To watch your empire crumble because you ignored the warning signs. Machiavelli teaches us that power is not a sprint, but a marathon requiring constant attention and adaptation. The blind spot of complacency is where many fall, succumbing to their own hubris. Mistake number 4, failing to adapt, the rigidity of a dead strategy. In the ever-shifting landscape of power, rigidity is a death sentence. Machiavelli's fourth warning cuts to the heart of strategic survival. Failing to adapt is like fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's weapons. Power is never static. It flows like a river, unpredictable and relentless. Those who cling stubbornly to old tactics, old beliefs, or outdated alliances risk becoming irrelevant, or worse, vulnerable. Machiavelli lived in a time of constant political upheaval. He witnessed how rulers who refused to change were quickly swept away by new forces. The lesson is clear: adaptability is not optional, it's essential. Psychologically, humans crave stability. We find comfort in routine, in what we know. But this very craving can trap us, blinding us to shifting realities. Those who fail to evolve become prisoners of their own minds, rigid, inflexible, unable to respond to new threats or opportunities. This mistake manifests in many ways: clinging to power structures that no longer serve, ignoring social change, failing to learn from mistakes, or refusing to innovate. Machiavelli's insight is that successful leaders are like skilled sailors. They read the changing winds, adjust their sails, and navigate the storm with agility. In modern times, this lesson resonates everywhere. Businesses that ignore market trends collapse. Politicians who resist change lose their mandates. Even individuals stuck in fixed mindsets suffer stagnation. The humiliation of failing to adapt is both public and personal. It's watching your empire crumble while you stubbornly deny the signs. It's losing respect, influence, and ultimately your place in history. Machiavelli's advice demands humility and courage, the willingness to admit when your strategy no longer works, and the bravery to change course. Because in the brutal game of power, the rigid die first, the adaptable survive. Mistake number 5. Neglecting reputation, the fragile mask of authority. In the realm of power, reputation is everything, yet it remains perilously fragile. Machiavelli's fifth warning exposes a devastating truth. Neglecting your reputation is like tearing off your mask in a world that demands disguise. Reputation is not merely about vanity or image. It's the foundation of authority, the currency of influence, and the shield against enemies. A strong reputation commands respect, instills fear, and builds loyalty. It can protect a leader from challenges and mask weaknesses. But reputation is a double-edged sword. Once tarnished, it invites suspicion, disrespect, and attack. Machiavelli understood that reputation must be actively managed and fiercely protected. Ignoring how you are perceived opens the door to humiliation and downfall. This neglect can happen in subtle ways, allowing rumors to spread unchecked, failing to respond to slander, or behaving inconsistently with the image you project. The psychology behind reputation management is complex. People often judge based on perception rather than reality. A leader's true power is shaped not just by their actions but by how those actions are interpreted. When reputation falters, so does authority. Support erodes, fear diminishes, enemies grow bolder. History shows us countless figures who lost power because they underestimated the importance of reputation. From disgraced generals to political figures undone by scandal, the fall often begins with damaged public perception. In today's hyper-connected world, reputation is more vulnerable than ever. Social media can amplify a single misstep into a viral catastrophe. Misinformation and propaganda twist facts and rewrite narratives overnight. Machiavelli's advice is clear. Protect your reputation with vigilance. Shape it with intention. Never let it be left to chance. The humiliation of neglecting reputation is profound. To be mocked, dismissed, or forgotten, not because of failure, but because perception turned against you. In the ruthless theater of power, reputation is your mask. Without it, you are exposed and vulnerable. Mistake number 6, mismanaging fear and love. The balancing act, Machiavelli's most famous counsel, revolves around the delicate balance between fear and love, a balancing act that many leaders disastrously mismanage. At the heart of power lies a simple question: Is it better to be feared or loved? Machiavelli's answer was neither straightforward nor sentimental. Being feared is more reliable than being loved, but being hated is the quickest path to ruin. This nuance is crucial. Fear can maintain order, obedience, and respect, but it can easily spiral into hatred if wielded without wisdom. Love, on the other hand, is fragile and often fickle, earned through kindness, generosity, and respect, but never guaranteed. Mismanaging. This balance leads to catastrophic consequences. Leaders who rely solely on love risk appearing weak and lose control. Those who use fear without restraint provoke rebellion and isolation. Psychologically, fear taps into primal survival instincts, motivating compliance, but breeding resentment. Love appeals to our social nature, but depends on genuine connection and trust. Machiavelli's insight reveals the modern challenge. Mastery over this duality requires emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, and constant recalibration. The humiliation of mismanaging fear and love is profound. To be loved but disrespected or feared but despised. Either way, power slips through one's fingers. History offers countless examples. Rulers beloved but ineffective, or feared yet ultimately overthrown. In today's world, this balance extends far beyond politics. Managers, influencers, and even individuals navigating relationships face this tension daily. Machiavelli challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truth. True power demands a ruthless understanding of human nature and the courage to wield fear and love wisely. Failing to do so is a fatal mistake. Mistake number 7, ignoring the role of fortune. The arrogance of control in the grand theater of power. There is a force both unpredictable and relentless, fortune. Machiavelli's final and perhaps most humbling warning is against the arrogance of believing we can fully control our fate. Ignoring fortune, the whims of chance, luck, and circumstance, is a fatal mistake. Machiavelli viewed fortune as a powerful goddess, unpredictable and capricious, who can raise a man to the pinnacle of success or dash him into ruin without warning. This forces a critical truth on those who seek power. No matter how skillful or strategic, some factors remain beyond control. The arrogance of control leads to overconfidence and blindness to risk. Leaders who ignore fortune's influence expose themselves to catastrophic setbacks. Psychologically, humans crave control. We construct narratives that give order to chaos. But fortune is chaos personified, a reminder of our limits. Machiavelli's advice was pragmatic. Recognize fortune's power and prepare to adapt. Be bold but flexible. Cultivate resilience to survive when luck turns. This humility is not defeatism. It is strategic wisdom. History echoes this lesson repeatedly. Great empires have fallen to unexpected events, natural disasters, revolutions, or betrayals beyond any one person's design. Modern parallels are everywhere. Market crashes, sudden political upheavals, or viral social media scandals can obliterate years of effort in moments. Ignoring fortune is to gamble recklessly with one's legacy. The humiliation tied to this mistake is searing. To see your carefully built world collapse due to forces you arrogantly dismissed. Machiavelli's final counsel is a call to humility and preparedness. Respect the unpredictable winds of fortune, and never mistake temporary control for absolute power. In the ruthless dance of power, those who heed fortune survive. Those who ignore her perish. The 7 humiliating mistakes Machiavelli warned us about are more than just historical lessons. They are timeless warnings etched into the very fabric of human nature and power itself. They reveal a harsh reality. Power is a battlefield where pride, ignorance, and arrogance can swiftly become your undoing. But within these warnings lies a roadmap, a path to power without humiliation. To become truly powerful, you must master vigilance, respect your enemies, adapt relentlessly, guard your reputation, balance fear and love, and accept the role of fortune with humility. This journey demands more than tactics. It requires self-awareness, courage, and an unflinching willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. The modern world, with its rapid change, complex social dynamics, and constant scrutiny, demands this wisdom more than ever. You cannot control everything, but you can control your response. Machiavelli's lessons are not calls to cruelty or manipulation. They are calls to realism and psychological insight. They challenge us to understand the darker, often unspoken rules that govern human behavior and power. As you reflect on these mistakes and the forces behind them, consider your own position, whether in leadership, relationships, or personal growth. Are you prepared to face these truths? To adapt, to balance, to protect what matters? Because power, real power, is never given. It is earned through relentless discipline and profound understanding. And the price of ignoring these lessons? Humiliation, downfall, and irrelevance. But, for those who learn and apply these truths, the path leads to lasting influence and respect. Now the question is, will you choose to walk this path with eyes wide open? If this exploration challenged your thinking, subscribe for more journeys into the depths of philosophy, psychology, and power. Share your thoughts. What mistake do you see most often in leaders today? And remember, the dance of power is unforgiving, but those who master its rhythm write history.